I never thought my college sweetheart would cheat on me after I supported her dream of becoming a physical therapist. When we met in freshman year, I was known as the smart guy who played soccer. I stayed fit, maintained good grades, and had my life planned out. I wanted to become a surgeon. We started dating when we bumped into each other at a campus coffee shop. She was studying with her boyfriend at the time, but something clicked between us. Within weeks, she broke up with him and we started seeing each other. Looking back, I should have seen that as a red flag. For 3 years, things were great. I had a full academic scholarship, which covered most of our expenses. We moved in together off campus, and I worked part-time at a local pharmacy while keeping up with my pre-med courses. She struggled with her grades though, and one day asked if she could cut back her work hours to focus on studying. She was worried about getting kicked out of her program. I wanted to support her dreams, so I picked up extra shifts. Sometimes I worked 50 to 60 hours a week to cover our rent, bills, and her car payments. My own health started suffering. I quit soccer and gained about 60 pounds from stress eating and lack of exercise. Strange things started happening. She would disappear for hours and not answer my calls. Once I heard a man's voice when I called her, but she claimed she was at the gym and some guy was being annoying. I believed her because I trusted her completely. I graduated early with my biology degree, but decided to wait on medical school until she finished her program. The plan was for her to support me through med school once she started working as a physical therapist. It seemed logical at the time. What was a 2-year wait when we planned to spend our lives together? 6 months after graduation, I was still working at the pharmacy while she finished her final year. Our relationship had changed. We argued more, and she started making hurtful comments about my weight. She spent less time at home and always had excuses for being unavailable. 3 months before her graduation, I came home to find all her things gone. She didn't even call, just sent a text saying she was leaving me and had moved on. She left the engagement ring on the kitchen counter. 7 years of relationship ended with a text message. I couldn't accept it. I started following her car after work, hoping to understand what happened. That's when I saw her driving a brand new Audi and pulling into a huge house in an expensive neighborhood. The next morning, I followed another car from that house to the hospital where she did her clinicals. The driver was her supervisor, Dr. Parker, the same guy from the group photos she'd shown me a year ago. My obsession grew worse. I spent weeks following them, sleeping in my car near their house. One day, they caught me. They recorded everything on their phones while yelling at me to leave them alone. Dr. Parker threatened to get a restraining order, clearly thinking I was just some random stalker obsessed with his girlfriend. She hadn't told him about our 7-year relationship or that we were engaged just months ago. 2 days later, I got served with a restraining order. That was my wake-up call. Right after that, an old girlfriend called to tell me the news she saw on social media. My ex was getting married to Dr. Parker. That's when everything started unraveling. I started getting calls from friends and acquaintances asking what happened between us. It was embarrassing, so I began blocking numbers. Finally, I downloaded Instagram to see what everyone was talking about. Her profile showed a completely different life. She had traveled with Dr. Parker multiple times while we were still engaged. There were photos of them together from over a year ago, when she was still with me. She had deleted every picture that had me in it, like I never existed in her life. But the biggest shock came when I saw her post announcing she was 5 months pregnant. The timing didn't add up. 5 months ago, she was still living with me. That's when I realized she must have been seeing us both at the same time. I wondered if the baby was mine. Instead of confronting her, I decided to focus on myself. I started going to the gym and fixed my diet. The weight started coming off quickly. I joined some meditation groups and met new people. Dating was hard though. I hadn't dated anyone else for 7 years. I got into medical school and threw myself into studying. I was determined to finish the program in 3 years instead of 4 by taking extra classes. 2 years into med school, I decided to try dating again. Tinder was frustrating. Most matches went nowhere. The bar scene wasn't my thing either. Then I found some self-improvement books and videos. I learned about confidence and started practicing talking to women. Every day, I spent an hour approaching women at different places. At first, it was terrifying, but it got easier. Within 3 weeks, I had gone on dates with 11 different women. 5 of them became regular friends with benefits. Soon I was juggling dates with 9 different women. They were the ones calling and texting me, trying to make plans. It felt surreal, like I was living a completely different life. But I kept my priorities straight. School came first, then work, then dating. If someone didn't fit my schedule, I moved on. One day at the grocery store, I saw a woman with 2 kids in her cart. She looked familiar. It was my ex, but I barely recognized her. She had gained weight and honestly didn't look as beautiful as I remembered. We talked briefly, and she seemed nervous. She wanted my number and suggested getting coffee. I didn't want to see her, but I couldn't stop thinking about the possibility that her older child might be mine. We arranged to meet at a family picnic spot 3 days later. She tried hugging me, but I kept my distance. She apologized for everything. The breakup text, the restraining order, breaking her promises. I stayed focused on the kids, suggesting we take them to a water park. She agreed but had to reschedule due to her daughter being sick. During this time, I talked to my friend Mike, who worked as a genetic technologist. We made a plan to collect DNA samples discreetly using straws from drinks at the water park. At the water park, I carried her 2-year-old while she pushed the baby in a stroller. We got smoothies because of the heat, and I waited for the right moment to collect the straw. Our conversation was casual. She even joked about catching me sleeping in my car that time. She asked if I was dating anyone. I told her yes, and that it was serious. Then she shared that she and Dr. Parker were separated, but trying to work things out. I didn't ask for details. My only concern was getting that straw with enough DNA on it. The next day, Mike tested the DNA sample. The results confirmed what I had suspected. The 2-year-old was my daughter. I had mixed feelings about what to do next. I could tell Dr. Parker and mess up their chances of getting back together, but that might not be best for my daughter. I thought about it carefully. I was about to start my residency, which would take 5 years. The salary wouldn't be much, and I wasn't ready for the responsibility of co-parenting. Maybe the best thing for my daughter was to have a stable home with them, at least for now. During our conversation at the water park, I could tell my ex wasn't happy in her marriage. She kept dropping hints about problems with Dr. Parker, but I didn't care anymore. She was the same person who had used me for years while seeing someone else. The only difference was that now I could see through her. The girl I once thought was perfect now seemed average. The woman I had followed around and lost sleep over didn't have any power over me anymore. I had changed. I was confident, successful, and had plenty of options with women who were more attractive and honest than her. I decided to keep the DNA test results to myself for now. After my residency, when I'd be more financially stable and settled in my career, I would think about telling them the truth. For now, I'd stay in touch with my ex just enough to see my daughter occasionally. Looking back, everything happened for a reason. If she hadn't betrayed me, I might still be that overweight, insecure guy working at a pharmacy. Instead, I was about to become a surgeon, was in the best shape of my life, and had more success with women than I ever imagined possible. Sometimes I think about telling Dr. Parker that his wife was seeing me when they first got together, or that his daughter is actually mine. But I've learned that revenge isn't always about exposing someone's lies. Sometimes it's about becoming so successful that when they finally realize what they lost, it's too late. She got her karma anyway. She chose the ready-made success of Dr. Parker over building something real with me. Now she was unhappy in her marriage while I was living my best life. I didn't need to do anything. She was already living with the consequences of her choices. I still see them occasionally. My ex tries to arrange meetings with the kids, probably hoping to keep me as a backup option. But I only agree when it fits my schedule. I'm civil with them, but I keep my distance. After all, I have my own life now, medical residency, dating, and a future that's looking better than anything I had planned with her. Maybe someday I'll tell them the truth about my daughter. But for now, I'm focusing on becoming the best version of myself. And that's the sweetest revenge of all. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it with friends or family who might enjoy it too. Your support means a lot. And if you have any thoughts, questions, or story ideas, drop them in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. See you in the next story.